I'm Emanuel Castillo. I'm a delegate of Colombia, a country located in the continent of South America. Imagine that a relative of yours was murdered by somebody, and months later you meet that person responsible for it. What would your reaction be? Also imagine that someone breaks into your house, kidnaps your children, assaults your wife, and takes your land. Don't you think this kind of thing should end? Or just imagine a kid being forced to carry a gun and based on a political belief fight against his own people. That and much more was something that we faced for almost half a century. For 50 years, Colombia, our country, faced an armed conflict with the largest armed group called themselves FARC, from Spanish, Fuerzas Armadas Revolucionarias de Colombia, in English, Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Founded in 1964 as a result of inequality and the lack of spaces for political participation, they responded to the use of violence and an armed fight, thereby seeking a political space where this fight could be reflected. As a result, thousands of families were affected, thousands of people were killed, disappeared, and displaced. It is a very heartbroken story, and we as Colombians all know it. It is really sad, we know it. Nevertheless, we can't change the past, but something I'm sure about is that we can start working in order to change the future of our country. We cannot change what happened to us, our family, society in the past, but you have two options. Always, we have two options. Either you allow that past to keep inside you without moving forward, or you control your emotions and move on so as to create a better future. And in a similar way, as Nelson Mandela could forgive those 77 years in jail, we as a nation started to move forward. And from September 2012, a peace agreement was started and ended and signed in 2016 in Havana, Cuba, between the armed group FARC and our government, where the armed group compromised to surrender their arms in order to end the war, repair the victims, have more democracy, and bring peace and reconciliation for all the country. The agreement signed in 2016 meant an important event in the history of our country. For the first time, life and well-being was at the center of discussions, and finally, listening and dialogue became the way to conclude that it was necessary to cease the fire and lay down weapons. Now, we would like to share with you all some strategies that we had as a nation to develop this process. The peace agreement wouldn't have been possible without the historical efforts of people in Colombia who never gave up and worked hard in their communities to guarantee well-being and inspire many others to believe in peace as a reality. Afro-Colombian, indigenous, other ethnic groups, farmers, and people in the city have creatively designed and developed strategies that contribute to achieve the peace that we have dreamed as a country. For instance, music in a town named Bojayá, department of Chocó, in the Pacific coast, has been a tool to forgive and heal the consequences of one of the worst massacres in Colombia's history. Besides music, literature, cinema, theater, and all the art expression that you can imagine, have been used in those cultural strategies for peace. On the other hand, the initiative of the state have helped the peace strategies. The creation of the Truth Commission, training program to promote reconciliation, listening and discussion spaces, and promotion of tourism in areas affected by the armed conflict are examples of them. We are aware that all this is not enough to achieve the peace we have dreamed. However, we understand that peace doesn't mean the end of a conflict. Peace is the result of a collective and permanent construction where every person in and outside Colombia plays an important role. The peace agreement creates a rural reform that seeks to overcome poverty and inequality in the countryside and provide well-being conditions for all rural inhabitants, reducing inequalities to those displaced by the conflict and having the chance to return to their lands, work in them, and live in peace, which is related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals numbers 1, 2, and 10. After signing the peace agreement, we have continued seeking that differences can be resolved peacefully, and that our country move forward to a culture of reconciliation, tolerance, and non-stigmatization that points out to a permanent construction of peace. We dream of a strengthened democracy where everyone has an opinion, and has the right to disagree, where ideas are defended with argument and never, ever again with weapons. Thank you so much.